This conference will now be recorded.
Hi everyone, welcome one and all to this EduLoans webinar series hosted by EduLoans along with its financial partner Mpower Financing. We have with us Mr. Lutz Brom. He's the Vice President for Marketing and Business Development. He is based out of the United States of America. He's going to be taking us through this session and he's going to be talking about the funding options after the students receive college admits. We are recording this session and the session would be available for viewing by everyone on our portal, on our website in the next 2 to 3 days. So we now hand over this session to Mr. Lutz Brom, who will be taking it forward. And towards the end of the presentation, we would keep the session open for a question and answer session where the students can feel free to post their questions in the chat box by clicking on the chat option on the top right hand corner of this web meeting. And I would request everyone to keep their systems on mute during the entire session. I now hand over this session to Mr. Lutz Brom, who will be taking it further. Lutz, you may start the session now.
Thank you, Gurpreet. Thanks for the introduction and hello, everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar on student financing. Very excited to be here. Let me just introduce myself briefly. I'm Lutz Brom. I'm the head of marketing for Mpower Financing. I was a former international student myself. I'm originally from Germany. That explains the funny name. And I moved to the US to study my undergraduate degree at Arizona State University. And then I went on to Wharton for my graduate degree. And then since then, I've had a global career with Citibank, Wells Fargo, PayPal, and now at Mpower Financing, where I'm very excited to be because it's a great company with a great mission to help students like yourselves to enable your student dreams by removing the obstacles to financing those dreams. What we'll talk about today are, a quick introduction on Mpower, who we are, what our loan product is, and how it works, and there'll be plenty of details to hopefully answer everyone's questions. But Mpower provides more than loans. We also provide some career guidance. So I want to briefly touch on our Path to Success program. And we also provide scholarships, and I'll talk about those as well. And then we'll have plenty of time at the end for some Q&A. So please enter those questions in the chat box, and we'll cover all your questions towards the end. So our mission at Mpower is to basically enable people with a promising future to further their academic career and financial aspirations, because we believe that education should be accessible to anyone, regardless of what your background is, regardless of how much financial resources you or your financial have. Education should not depend on those financial resources. It should mostly depend on your future that you have ahead of yourself. And we are very excited to have a product and a proposition for students who exactly fill that criteria. We were actually founded by a couple of former international students. Our CEO, Manu, came from France and went to the University of Virginia, where he had to support himself with lots and lots of side jobs to finance his education. And our co-founder, Mike, came from Iran and went to Purdue University. And they subsequently met and started Mpower in 2014 to help other students overcome the obstacles that they faced when they were trying to get their degrees in the United States. We are a global company. We've got offices in lots of places around the world. We are based headquartered in Washington, D.C., but we also have a very large office in Bengaluru, where we have almost half of our team is based there. So we're very familiar with the market in India. We are a very global team from a nationalities perspective. We represent over 13 nationalities. We speak 20 languages. So regardless of where you're from, you're very likely to find someone who can speak your native language and help you out. So we encourage people to contact us via phone or WhatsApp or a Facebook page or a contact us page on our website to get more information from us. We're very proud of our accolades. We've grown quite a bit. We work with over 350 universities. We have processed over $2 billion in loan applications. We work with universities in all 50 states of America, as well as 4 provinces in Canada. And we've been named as the best student loan by US News and World Report, as well as by NerdWallet. So we are very proud of the accolades that we have. We know that we have a great product, and I'm excited to tell you a bit more about that. So when you think about what the funding challenges that students face, there are several levels. If you're trying to get financing from a bank in India or a financial service provider in India, you're going to face a couple different obstacles. A lot of times banks ask for a collateral or a cosigner. There's lots of paperwork involved. You have to go to a branch, and the process is quite cumbersome and takes quite some time. If you are trying to get money from a US bank, you will invariably need a US-based cosigner, because no US bank lends to non-US citizens without a US cosigner. And very few international students have a US-based cosigner or a family member who's willing to underwrite or co-sign the loan for them, which basically leaves Mpower. We are the only US-based lender that supports international students without a cosigner, because as I said before, we look at your future rather than your past or your family connection or your family resources to make our credit decisions. We have a very unique model that we built specifically to help international students. So for one, we have a cloud-based application process that makes everything super easy. It's totally paperless. You can do it on your mobile phone. You can do it on your laptop. It's highly secure and quite easy. And we'll get into what that process looks like a little later. Most importantly, we have a credit algorithm and lots of proprietary data that allows us to make a credit decision that's very forward-looking rather than backward-looking. We look at your potential rather than your past. We also have partnerships with universities, which ensures that students are aware of their options. You can find a lot of information about Mpower on most of the universities' websites that we support. And then finally, we have a global network and servicing capabilities that allows you to make payments to Mpower seamlessly from anywhere in the world. So let's talk a little bit about the loan itself and what the features are. As I said, the main thing to remember is that we don't require a cosigner, we do not require collateral, and we do not require a credit history. That said, if you do have a credit history, we do take that into account. And if you have some negative information on that because you had loans in the past that you didn't repay, then that will certainly be taken into account. But not having a credit history will not count against you. The one thing that we're very proud of is that we offer fixed rates. We believe that fixed rates are better for students because they avoid the interest rate fluctuations that you would otherwise face and makes budgeting a lot easier. And I'll get into some of those advantages in subsequent slides. We also have some interest rate discounts, which I'll tell you about later, that allows you to lower your rate. Our term is a 10-year term, which starts 6 months after you graduate. And the maximum loan amount per customer or per student is $50,000. So from that, you'll see that we don't finance the entire education because most educations cost more than that in the US or Canada. But that's because we believe that it's in the student's best interest to have some of their own money or their family's money involved as well, because that ensures that students take their studies very seriously and actually graduate. And so we provide the gap that most students face when they're looking at funding their education. What's nice about our loan is that we cover every expense that the school possibly can charge you on their account. So we cover tuition, housing, meals, health insurance, books, computers, lab fees. We will cover all those costs for you. And we also make it super simple for you by directly dispersing the money to the school, which avoids any administrative hassles for you. You don't have to work with a bank and figure out how to make a foreign exchange transfer to an account in the US. We will take care of all that for you. We also, as a US lender, are able to help you build your credit in the US because you will be making some small interest-only payments while you're here in the US. And I'll tell you a bit more about that later and why that's to your advantage. We also provide a visa support letter to help you with immigration. There's no fee for that visa support letter, and you will get that visa support letter from us regardless of whether you take the loan from us eventually. So we will go through the application process with you. We will approve you for a loan and then get you your visa support letter that helps you to get your I-20 and get your visa. If you then at some point decide you don't need the loan from us because you found other funding or maybe your family can help out more, we won't mind. You will still be able to use that visa support letter and expedite your visa process. We also have no prepayment penalty because we do encourage students to repay their loan as soon as possible, because the sooner you pay your loan, the less money you spend and more money you save. We also don't require a life insurance policy on our loan, which some other lenders in India do require, and will add another couple percentage points to your loan. We don't do that. It's all built into our loan. So those are the highlights, but most people have lots more detailed questions. So I'll tell you a bit more about, we'll go through more detail than that. Here's a quick overview of how we are different from other lenders that you may have explored. So one thing that we're also very proud of is that we cover all disciplines and all fields. We don't just cherry pick the MBAs or STEM students, whether you're studying architecture or drama or archaeology, we don't care. We will cover any field that you want to study. We cover juniors, seniors, and undergraduate in undergraduate school, as well as graduates. Like I said, our interest rate is fixed versus variable for some other lenders, and I'll show you what some of the benefits of that later. Our minimum loan amount is also very low, which means that that may not matter right now to you as you're looking at the big bill from the university, but if you are in the US and find yourself short because you maybe underestimated the cost of living in the US, or there's some unexpected expenses that came up, then you can come to us even while you're in school and ask for a small loan to help you fund that gap. We support students from over 200 countries. We have a broad range of schools that are supported. So I would encourage you to check out our list of schools that we support, because we've determined that those are the schools that provide the best professional outcomes and provide the best career opportunities for international students. We're also not an exclusive lender. That means if you happen to have already borrowed some money from another bank, we will take that into consideration, but we will not make that a criteria that we will hold against you. We will certainly continue to lend to you if we feel that your overall borrowing capacity is adequate. We will never give you so much money that will put you into an undue debt burden, because we want to be responsible and make sure that the loan is not causing undue stress for you. And we don't require any upfront payments at all. Everything is built into your loan, and you're not responsible for anything until you start the repayment process. Here are some more details, because everybody will ask us, well, what's your rate? And as you can see here, the rates for any graduate degree is 11.99. But with the 1.5% interest rate discounts, that goes down to 10.49%. And I'm pretty sure that if you look around the marketplace in India and compare that to other lenders, you'll find that that rate is very competitive, especially given the fact that we do not ask for a cosigner or collateral, which means your family's money is not tied up and you don't have to burden your family with loan obligations, you can be free of all that and pursue your own course with a very favorable rate. For undergraduates, it's a little bit higher. It's $13.99, but they also get to enjoy 1.5% interest rate discounts, and I'll tell you about what those are later. And then there's an origination fee of 5%, which gets added to the balance and the term of the loan. So if you borrow $10,000, that's a $500 origination fee, which then gets added to the balance, and it adds, $2 to $3 to your monthly payment. Loan amounts we already covered. What you should know here is that while I mentioned that we have a $50,000 lifetime limit per student, we also have a $25,000 limit per academic term. So, and this is for risk reasons, we do not give you $50,000 all at once, but we can give you $25,000 for the first semester and then $25,000 for the second semester. Or if you want, we can give you $25,000 for the first year and $25,000 for the second year. How you split up that money is up to you. And it doesn't have to be in 2 loans, and can be in 4 loans or 5 loans. It's really whatever you need. But the maximum is $50,000, and it's never more than $25,000 at a time. How does the repayment work? Well, your repayment starts 45 days after the money has been dispersed, and at that point, you're only responsible for making interest payments. The principal repayment starts 6 months after you graduate, and then you have 10 years to repay that principal. But as I said earlier, we also encourage you to do it sooner if you can, so that you can save money. So you may ask, why is Mpower asking me to make interest-only payments while in school? I may not have enough money or earnings during school. Well, it's actually to your benefit, because other lenders, they may say you don't owe any interest, but what they really mean is that they are still calculating that interest, and they keep adding it to the balance of your loan, which means that when you graduate, you end up with a loan that's much higher than you originally anticipated, and your overall funding costs are also a lot higher. So this avoids paying interest on interest, but more importantly, it also allows us to report those payments to the US credit bureaus and build your US credit history. And the US credit history is not just important to enable you to get other financial products like a credit card or maybe a car loan or whatever, but more importantly, if you're trying to rent an apartment, your landlord will ask for a credit report. And if you don't have one, it's going to be very difficult to get an apartment, or you have to pay a lot of money cash up front. If you want a cell phone contract, they will check your credit. And more importantly, if you're looking for a job after graduation in the US, most employers will do a background check at that time that they make an offer to you. And that background check includes a credit check. So by having a credit history, you're actually improving your chances of getting a job in the US. And I think that a lot of you are interested in doing that following your studies. It also, helps you sort of practice making small payments. It instills some financial discipline while you're in school, so that you're getting in the habit of repaying your loan. And more importantly, it also allows you to benefit from the interest rate discounts sooner. So I've mentioned those already a couple times. Let's talk about what they actually are. First of all, once you come to the US, you will surely get a bank account somewhere, maybe with a local credit union on campus or a bank near campus, but you will need a bank account because you want a debit card in order to make some small payments and just transact in the United States. What we encourage you to do is to link that account to your loan and use that to make your interest payments. So as soon as you sign up for linking your accounts, we will already reduce your interest rate by 0.5%. And then if you make regular payments for 6 months, we will reward you with another 0.5% interest rate discount. So immediately, you've reduced your rate by 1%. And then when you graduate and you send us a proof of your graduation and your employment, we will reward you for that as well and give you another 0.5% discount, which adds up to 1.5% of the interest rate. So by the time you make principal repayments, you can reduce your rate by 1.5% and thus lower the overall cost of your funding. Here's an example of what the impacts are of making interest-only payments during school versus waiting till after you finish school. Imagine that you're borrowing $21,000. With an Mpower loan, you would make $200 payments per month while you're in school. And given that the average wage in the US is about $15 per hour, that means it's about 15 hours a month, so 3 to 4 hours of on-campus work per week to cover that, which many of our students do. And what happens is that when you graduate with an Mpower loan, the principal amount that you owe at graduation is still $21,000, whereas with somebody who actually accrues that interest and adds it to the principal balance means you'll have a loan of $26,000 to pay off, which means that your subsequent payments are higher and your overall costs are higher. So with Mpower, you'd be saving basically thousands of dollars in total financing using this method. The other question that we get asked a lot is, well, why do you have fixed interest rates? Variable rates seem so much better or lower. Well, we believe that the interest rate risk that comes with any loan should be borne by the lender, not be on your shoulders. So if the interest rates go up and down, that should not be of concern to you. Let that be our risk. It also means that the interest rate that you get charged never increases. In fact, it'll only decrease with those interest rate discounts, but it can never increase, which also means that your monthly payments do not change. And that makes budgeting a lot easier. You can set up automatic payments a lot easier. You don't have to constantly check every month to determine what the latest payment amount is and adjust it. You can put that on autopilot basically and forget about it and know exactly what the cost of funding is to you. To just illustrate that, with a fixed rate, basically you can predict what your payment is and what your rate will be. With a variable rate, while that may sound good now, especially in these times when banks have lowered central banks have lowered their interest rates, they've done that to address the situation that we're facing in the world today, but that doesn't mean that these rates will be low like that forever. And you certainly can't guarantee that they'll be that low for the next 10 years while you're paying off your loan. Interest rates vary greatly over that time period, and therefore your payment can change and can also increase over time. There's also some benefits to having an Mpower loan, which is denominated in the US versus an INR loan, a rupee loan. Because you'll be living in the US, and presumably many of you will want to study and stay there to start your career and earn money in the US, means that you'll be paying off the loan with the same currency that you're earning, which means there are no foreign currency charges while you're paying it off, and you don't have to worry about that currency exchange rate. And also upfront, while you're studying, you don't have to worry about constantly transferring money from India or from the US to India and worrying about the foreign exchange charges on every one of those payments. And some people say, well, the devaluation should make that cheaper, but what it really means is that if you may have thought that you've saved up enough money at the beginning of your studies to pay off your schools, but because of devaluation, you actually might find that you actually need more money to pay off your your school obligations, and thus having a US dollar loan will actually prevent you from encountering that risk. So there are lots of advantages why a US dollar loan makes sense if you're studying in the US. So who is eligible for an Mpower loan? Well, all you need is to attend one of the Mpower schools that we partner with, and you can check that list on our website. And again, I would highly encourage you to use that list as almost your first place to see which school you might want to attend, rather than just going purely based on rankings that you might see or names that you recognize in the news, because there are lots and lots of good schools for international students that provide, a great ROI, a great return on investment that you may never heard of. Well, our school list will be able, will make you aware of some of those schools. The other criteria is that you have to be within 2 years of graduation. So as I said earlier, we do not finance juniors and freshmen and sophomores and undergraduate. If you're an undergraduate, you have to be at least a junior or senior, because at that point you've declared your major, and we are more comfortable with giving you money because we know what your career will look like, which is harder to do when you're just a freshman starting out. But if you're a graduate student, just about every graduate program, except a few medical programs, are 2-year programs. So you'll be able to apply for an Mpower loan immediately before you start that program. So how does the actual process work? It's fairly straightforward. You go to our website and you check your eligibility, which basically means checking the school that you want to apply to. And then you fill out an online application. The online application covers a couple things. We will ask for some personal details about yourself. We will ask about your educational background and your test scores. We will ask about your professional background and your past jobs. And we'll ask some questions about your financial situations. If you have savings, if you have received a scholarship from someone, if you have a family that will pitch in to fund your education. We'll ask you those questions to get a good picture of what your total financial situation looks like, and to determine whether our loan can then help fill whatever gap you might be experiencing. That takes about half an hour probably. Once you fill that out online, within 2 to 3 days, you will get from us a conditional offer to tell you, yes, we can approve you for a loan, but you have to upload some documents in order to verify the information that you provided. So then it's back to you. You have to upload some documents. We make that super easy through our dashboard. You can take a picture with your mobile phone and just upload that. So we will ask you to upload pictures of your passport, your resume, your acceptance letter at the school, things like that. And once we have all the documents, it will take another 3 to 5 days to review all that and then give you the final approval. And that means at that point, we give you the visa support letter that you can take to the school and get the I-20, which is the document that you need to get your student visa from the US Immigration Service. After that, you have nothing to worry about. We will take care of the rest. We will contact your school and determine when the school needs the money, and we will take care of all that for you. And that is really determined by the school. You don't have to worry about that at all, but it usually happens shortly before the semester start, or even maybe during the first week of the semester. So if you're applying now in March for a loan for the fall, that disbursement will wait until the fall. But if you come to us at the end of August and want to apply for a September start, then that disbursement happens really quickly because you're really close to starting school. But either way, you have nothing to worry about. The money gets to the school when they need it. And then you just sign up for those interest rate discounts, and you contact us when you graduate to get that final interest rate discounts. So it's pretty straightforward. And again, all online. So no in-person visit needed, which is especially useful these days when you're not supposed to be out on unnecessary business. And it's highly secure, and it's very fast. Don't just take it from me. Our borrowers are also incredibly happy with our service. In fact, our customer satisfaction score is over 95% of our existing borrowers. So people who borrow from us are very happy with what we can offer them. This is a great quote that I really like because it embodies how we feel about Mpower. We obviously want to deliver financial performance, but we also want to make a positive contribution to society, which is what we do by giving you the chance to pursue your education. We are actually a public benefit corporation, which means we have to show that we make a positive contribution to society and not just a financial gain. And so we're very aligned with that mission, and part of that is to help you not just with your education, but also with helping you find a job after graduation, because we all know that education is just a stepping stone towards a great career. And we are, of course, invested in your career success, because if you get a great job, then you have the means to repay your loan, which is obviously what we're concerned about. So everybody wins if you find a job. So we've put together a program called Path to Success that includes a whole bunch of resources that once you're a borrower and once you come here to the US, you can take advantage of. We provide free resume reviews. We can do a mock interview with you. We can provide networking support. We can help you find jobs and internships. Last year, in fact, we hired 10 international students to work in our office in DC. So there are lots of ways that we as a US company can help you navigate the US job market, which is quite different than what you may be used to in India or elsewhere. And we also provide scholarships, which is another way of making an impact, because we know that not everybody may qualify for a loan, but everybody can qualify for a scholarship. All you need to do is write a short essay about why you're studying abroad, and you can be entered into our 2 scholarships that we currently have. One is the Global Citizenship Scholarship. Here's some winners from the past. That's a $5,000 grand prize, and the deadline is April 15th. So you still have about a month or so to check out our website and submit an application for that. You do not have to be a borrower, and you do not have to apply for a loan to be eligible for the scholarship. This is completely separate from everything else we do. The only restriction is that you have to attend or plan to attend one of the 350 universities that we already support with loans. Other than that, anyone can be eligible for this Global Citizens Scholarship. We also have a Women in STEM Scholarship that's specifically for women studying any kind of STEM degree. So those 2 scholarships are open right now, and I would encourage all of you to check out our website and apply for those scholarships, because you should certainly look for scholarship money first. And then once you have that sorted, figure out what other gap is needed to finance your education, and then fill that gap with a loan, and hopefully it'll be an Mpower loan. There's some other resources I just want to quickly point you to. Certainly you'll find lots of information on our own website, so I encourage you to peruse that. We also have a free student guide that you can download on our website. It's a full 40-page book with all sorts of details and charts that you can read or maybe share with your parents if they have questions about borrowing from Mpower financing. And then there are a couple other resources that might be useful for you that you may not be aware of yet. So if you want to study in the US, I would encourage you to check out edupass.org, which is a great website that talks about, that has lots of content about topics that are relevant to anyone wanting to come to the US. And there's also studyingincanada.org, which is a similar resource for anyone who wants to pursue their studies in Canada. So with that, I'm going to conclude the formal presentation and open it up for questions from the audience.
Thanks, Lutz, for taking such a wonderful session. I'm sure the students who have joined us today would have certainly got answers to most of the questions that they had in mind in regards to Mpower financing. We are now open for a question and answer session where students can feel free to post their questions in the chat box, and we'll request Lutz to provide answers to those questions. Also, this session is being recorded, so you can view this session on our portal in the coming 2 to 3 days time once it's uploaded on our website. You could see some numbers on your screen These are the numbers for the EduLoans counselors. You can also feel free to call on these numbers and ask your questions in regards to Mpower or any other kind of loans that you're looking forward for. So we would just wait for your questions to come up, and Lutz, if the questions are coming to the organizer, we would read those questions out to you so that you could provide answers for the same.
Okay. I see we have one question from Puya about she's applying for a loan in March, but she doesn't need the money until the second semester, which starts in January of 2021. So this is a situation where somebody's applying to go to study, starting their studies in the fall of this year, but she's funding her first semester herself, but needs a loan for the second semester. And so, yes, the question is, can I apply already now for a loan in January 2021? And the answer is yes. You can apply for a loan now for that period and any period beyond that in your studies. You just let us know, what your total expected costs are for your school, and then we can give you a decision about your entire term or your period of study, whether that's 2021 or even beyond 2021. And then you decide how much of that money you want to borrow for each individual semester.
We have a question come up from Amit, and Amit would want to know, due to the coronavirus or the COVID-19 pandemic that is currently going on worldwide, how is the situation in the US? And in case if he is applying for a loan now with Mpower, and in case if he does not plan of going to US due to this pandemic still continuing, what would be the impact on the loan, and would it automatically stand cancelled?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, none of us know exactly how this situation will play out or how long it will last. But what I can say is that what we encourage all students to do is to be as well prepared for their studies as they can, and that includes their financing. So I would encourage anyone to apply now so that they actually know the full picture for their funding situation and whether they have the loan or not, or how much of a loan they will get. That way, at least, if they do come to us, everything's taken care of and already prepared. If you then decide to not pursue your studies, and if you don't even start, then the loan is automatically canceled because we're not going to, send money to the university when you're not even going to start. Or if you want to defer that loan because you decide you want to come to the US next year instead of this year, then we will just keep everything on hold, and you just let us know when you have decided to start, and we'll restart that process and basically work with the university to get that money to the university. But at least at that point, you will have already finished the application, uploaded all your documents, and you're all set, and there's nothing left for you to do. So, and there's no cost in canceling the loan. And even if you take a loan and you start your studies in the fall, and then after 30 days decide, what, I'm not going to continue the studies because the university has changed the course or something else has happened, you can still cancel the loan within 30 days of getting the loan from us, and there's absolutely no cost to you. So there's really no risk in applying right now.
I hope that answers your question, Amit. We have a question that has been put directly to the organizer, so I'll read that out for you, Lutz. The question is, so the visa offices are shut currently, and we don't know when the visa offices are going to be reopening for us to get the visas for our travel abroad. So in that scenario, should we wait for before we apply for the loan?
Again, we will need your, we provide you with the visa support letter that you need to get your visa, because the visa office will ask whether you have arranged for the funding that you need, and you need to prove that to them. So our letter helps you prove that. So again, it would be in your best interest to have that letter already in hand, so that when the visa office does open again and you can go and apply for that visa, you have all your documents with you. Because that visa letter does not, I mean, it can be used anytime. So whether you want to use it now or you want to use it 2 months from now, at least you'll have it. So again, it makes sense to submit an application to Mpower and have everything set for when things return to normal or somewhat normal.
So we have a question from Kshitij, and Kshitij would want to ask what are the what is the amount that we could get for our travel abroad from Mpower?
So the loan covers everything that the university would charge, because it's a student loan, and because we send the money directly to the school. So the money does not cover travel to the US. That is something that you'd have to finance on your own. But we will then cover every other education expense that you incur once you are in the US or Canada.
Kshitij, I hope that answers your question. We'll just take a couple of more questions before we call it a session. So we are just waiting for you all to post your questions in the chat box. There's another question that's come directly to the organizer, which is, could I apply for both the years? If I'm planning to study for 2 years, can I apply for both the years together?
Yes, you can. So you will just basically tell us what your course of study is and how long it lasts, and what your total expected cost is for those 2 years. And then again, as I said earlier, we will ask you a couple questions about your current financial situation to determine how much in savings you already have, how much in scholarships you've received, how much your family can contribute, and then help you calculate what your gap is, and then tell you, how much of that gap can we finance. And then you determine whether you want to use that money for the first year, only for the first year, or you want to divide it up between the first and second year, or whether you want to divide it up in even smaller chunks between semesters. That is completely up to you, and you can always come back to us and with our dashboard, look at how much money you still have available to borrow, and then you can draw on that in the future. So yes, we'll give you a full picture of your funding for your entire course of studies.
We have one question that's coming from Nina. How soon can I start building my credit history once I'm in the US?
So the great question. The credit building starts the moment that you make your first interest payment to Mpower. And we have actually shown that people who make 12 payments regularly to Mpower go from having no credit history in the US to having a prime credit score. A prime credit score is considered the highest level of credit worthiness in the US. And that will open up new doors for you. For example, we just signed an agreement with a car financing company for anyone who actually might need an auto loan because they need a car to get around in the US. That company will actually give you a discount on that car loan if you've been a regular Mpower borrower, because they recognize that your credit is good, and they will reward that good credit history with a lower rate. So having a good credit history can have an impact, pretty quickly for your life in the US.
Thank you for those answers, Lutz. I think so we'll call it a session because I don't see any more questions coming up currently. And for all those who've joined us today and taken your time out, we really thank you for being a part of the session. So we are hosting these webinar series every Friday. It starts at 7 p.m. Indian Standard Time. We are conducting it for our other financial partners as well. So we will have one more financial partner next week, and we will be sending you communication in regards to registering for those webinars in the coming weeks. We would like to thank Lutz for taking out time today and helping us know about the benefits of students applying for an overseas education loan through Mpower. So I would call it a session from my side, and I hand over the session to Lutz for his last words so we can call it a session. Thank you.
Thanks, Gurpreet. Yes, I wanted to thank everybody for attending, and I wish all of you well. Stay safe, and I wish you lots of good fortune with your academic pursuits, and hope to see many of you succeed with your studies. And looking forward to many of you applying to our scholarships as well. So with that, have a great night. Bye-bye.